All right, so Matt Pat says we're going to hate what we're about to find out about security breach. What? That everything else you told us was a lie? Huh? Is that what we about to hear? Matt? Let's see, bro. Let's see. Got my thriller. Boy got the thriller jacket on.
Oh boy, you're not going to like this one, but I think we're right.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory,
sir.
the show that started so many flame wars, you'd think we were a Pizzaplex. So right now, I'm in the middle of re-examining every piece of FNAF lore the series has ever produced in order to construct a definitive timeline for the series. Or, I suppose, as definitive as possible for the series, considering, you know, it's FNAF. That means that me and Tom and head editor Dan are combing over every misleading teaser, every line of hidden website source code, every page of the novels and their accompanying graphic novels, and every questionable skin from FNAF AR from Big Chungus Springtrap to Statue of Liberty Chica. Because nothing says America quite like rebranding a national monument with a giant toga-wearing murder chicken shilling for pizza. And our forefathers wept. Anyway, since this is an absolutely massive quest, we've broken the timeline down into 3 core chunks. Foundations of Freddy's, the Afton era, and post-Purple Guy. Basically everything that happens post-Springtrap getting torched in FNAF 6. And while that timeline theory is still in the works, we've already made some discoveries. Some big and some small. And it's one of the bigger ones that brings us here today. You see, as we were rewatching all the cutscenes from FNAF 6, we heard this line from the completion ending of the game.
Thank you for your participation. There is no need for you to return to work next week, as Fazbear Entertainment is no longer a corporate entity.
Oh sure, everyone remembers the whole "don't keep the devil waiting" bit during that ending, but all of us tend to forget what comes after the fire. An acknowledgement that Fazbear Entertainment is no longer a corporate entity. When Henry dies in that fire, the game makes it clear that the company dies with him. But that doesn't make any sense knowing what we know now. In FNAF VR, AR, and Security Breach, Fazbear Entertainment is alive and still very much running. Okay. In fact, the company seems stronger than ever, building a giant mega pizzaplex that towers over anything the company's ever done before. Exactly. So what gives? A dissolved company can't be going around making new games, and they certainly aren't building new 80s inspired animatronics, are they? All of it seems to imply that someone restarted the company between FNAF 6 and FNAF VR. And it was that single, simple observation, my friends, that led us down a rabbit hole I believe may have solved another core part of Security Breach's endlessly frustrating story. First, we wanted to prove to ourselves that this corporate restart was a real thing. Throughout the core gameplay of FNAF 6, if you buy and display animatronics with a high liability rating, you get a chance to experience a fun little mechanic known as being sued. You go through these lawsuits and decide whether to pay a lawyer to fight for you or just pay the listed amount to settle the case. It's a fun, quirky gameplay mechanic that fits with the humor of the franchise. However, there's a detail within these lawsuits that's important. If you take a look at the names at the top of each
Who put this together? How do you think it is?
lawsuit, you'll see that the defendant is listed as Fazbear Entertainment, Inc.
If FNAF was real, would you work there for $2 million? Of course. All right? For sure.
3 letters are important.
Now, would I be there after 7 p.m.? No. Would I come in before 8 a.m.? No. But I definitely work there, though.
That I and C there means that Fazbear is an incorporated company. It means that Fazbear Entertainment has shareholders, people that own stocks within the company. There are also 2 different types of corporations, S-Corps, which tend to be smaller, and C-Corps, which tend to be bigger. Trust me, you don't really want to know any of that, nor do you need to know any of it for this theory. I just bring it up because it's knowledge that Steph and I have accumulated over the last decade of doing this work as business owners, and I just wanted it to be validated at some point in my life. Anyway, useless business information aside, as we hear at the end of FNAF 6, Fazbear Entertainment, Inc. has been dissolved.
Fazbear Entertainment is no longer a corporate entity.
We can assume that Henry, in his final act before sacrificing his life, dissolved any and all ownership remaining in the company so it would die with him, which is why it's so weird that suddenly it's back. And not just back, but back in a completely new form. In Security Breach, if you check out the Balloon Boy arcade cabinet above the daycare, on the title screen you'll find that the copyright is now owned by a brand new company, Fazbear Entertainment, LLC. Again, those last 3 letters there are important. They stand for Limited Liability Company. Basically, it means that
I thought it was corporation. Listen, they taking my business degree away from me, no cap.
the owners of the business aren't shareholders, but rather one or a small group of individuals that can't be held responsible for the debts of the business. For instance, if the Fazbear business took out a small loan of $1 million but couldn't pay it back, the banks couldn't then approach Henry or William's personal money demanding repayment. LLC members also aren't usually responsible for the co-owner's negligence or wrongdoing, which again, knowing the history of this company is probably probably gonna be a better business arrangement. Most importantly of all though, LLCs tend to be smaller, held by one or a few individuals rather than a collection of shareholders. And this actually explains a lot. If you go for the Afton ending of Security Breach, you go down the elevator only to discover the Fnaf 6 pizzeria underneath the whole thing. Try explaining that decision to your shareholders. We're just gonna build our new mall on top of that old burnt down pizzeria. That'll rake in the big bucks. How about the fact that we get messages on the Faz Watch from building contractors concerned about building a giant mall over the equivalent of a sinkhole? Again, this doesn't feel like something you'd be able to do if the company had shareholders, but if the business is owned by a single individual, they could essentially do whatever they wanted. They don't have to answer to anyone. In short, there is strong evidence to suggest that someone has restarted the Fazbear brand under this new corporate entity. But who would do that? Why would they do that? Was I just chasing down a lead that didn't matter? No, because I wasn't the only one asking the question. In December of 2021, this book was released, the Fnaf Ultimate Guide. Basically your one-stop shop for anything important to the franchise, written by the man himself, Scott Cawthon, and only Scott Cawthon. This thing is robust. It contains every scrap of dialogue, every game mechanic, a summary of every Fazbear fright, and a description for practically every one of the nearly 150 characters introduced into the franchise. If it ain't in here, it probably ain't worth your brain space. And if the book explicitly...
So somewhere between Scott and Walt Disney, all right? They have the greatest manga written inside of their head in One Piece, okay? Them three, they got the greatest, lengthiest, girthiest manga written out for us. I don't know how they came up with it, okay? But boy, ain't no way.
Call something out, well, it's probably gonna be worth a look. And wouldn't you know it, but in the FNAF AR description of the glitch trap virus, we get this quote. The cease work order from the Fazbear Entertainment Office of Legal Affairs seems to indicate that the company at some point becomes aware of the problem and tries to stop it. That leaves one question. Just who is running the company? And it was here that I knew that I was onto something. The fact that the Ultimate Guide felt the need to point it out made me realize that this is absolutely something that we need to be solving. The clues are in place for us. It was now time for us to put it all back together. So let's figure out who's running the show over at the new improved Fazbear Entertainment LLC, shall we? Well, let's consider what exactly that person is doing. First and foremost, they're building a brand new location over the remains of the old FNAF 6 location. That right there is a huge red flag. Why not just bulldoze the whole thing and build a new one? Unless, of course, they know what's down there. Because remember, underneath it all lies the heart and soul of this franchise, Afton. They are choosing to build their new location on top of his literal gravesite. The head of this new Fazbear Entertainment LLC wants access to him, and as we see at the end of the game, it seems like their goal is to bring him back to his former glory. But just having access to Afton's body isn't enough. This person wants more. We know that the head of Fazbear Entertainment LLC has been actively taking an interest in Vanessa becoming head of security, despite her having no qualifications for the position. We know this based on in-game messages. Quote, interview notes. As requested, here are my notes on today's Chief Security Officer interview. While Vanessa seemed eager and bright, she doesn't appear to have any relevant background experience. I realize the recommendation came from the top, but we need someone who's run security for a facility of this scale. I do not recommend her for this position. Based on this email, Vanessa should have never gotten the position, but note that it's marked for deletion. Someone wanted to hide the poor interview performance. Someone at the top. In yet another email,
I'm
we
trying
see
to
this.
think of who it's gonna be.
New hire summary, head security guard, no prior qualifications, internal reference, name withheld. The person putting Vanessa forward for the job is trying to stay anonymous. But hold on, why would someone want to hire Vanessa despite her limited experience?
Come on. Hey.
Well, the only really special thing about her is that she's possessed by Glitch Trap. So if someone's trying to bring Afton back, preserving his body underneath the Pizzaplex, it makes sense to get someone into the Pizzaplex who houses the only other part of Afton that remains, his consciousness, in the form of the Glitch Trap virus. But who would possibly want to bring a serial killer back to life? I mean, think about what this person has done. They've restarted an entire company, they've hired third parties to scan old circuit boards, they've rebranded the franchise, built a mall, and then docked doctored emails to hire someone, all in an effort to resurrect Afton. Who would do that? Who would go to that level of extreme? Can't be Vanessa. She can't hire herself. Can't be Michael. He's always trying to get rid of Afton. Can't be Henry. He dissolved the company in the first place. Can't be Gregory because he's trying to destroy the animatronics. But there is someone it can be.
I will make you proud, Daddy.
The only person who would be that motivated to bring Afton back to life. The one person that through all of the games they've appeared in has been on Afton's side wanting to keep his vision alive. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I submit to you that Elizabeth Afton is the one in control of the new Fazbear Entertainment LLC. I guess you could call her the boss baby.
Nah,
that's pause and give you a chance to write your collective groans, frustrations, and general vitriol down in the comments. While you're doing that, let me quickly remind you that right above that fiery comment section is our merch shelf, where it's your last chance to pre-order our new ARG jacket, the puzzle that you wear. Once that thing's gone, it is gone forever. So get your orders in this weekend. But you know what? If you don't want the hassle of solving your clothes and you just want to be snugly and warm this holiday season, might I suggest some of our other holiday items that we have in stock right now, including
I might
the
cop the
Greenleaf
blanket
and the Pixel Player lounge pant and hoodie. They're snuggly, they're warm, they make it look like you just stepped out of an 8-bit minigame. Place your orders now so that way you get them in time for Christmas. All right, you done venting in the comments? Told you this one would make you mad. Let's see what you wrote. And yes, I'm doing this from the past. But Elizabeth is dead. Baby's eyes are blacked out in the blob. She died in FNAF 6. Yep, all of those are perfectly valid. I know it sounds insane. Believe me. No one recognizes that more than me. But I ask you, when has any character that's meant to be dead in this franchise ever stayed dead? Let's just look at the facts, shall we? Our second ever theory on this game drew attention to all the similarities between Elizabeth Afton and Vanessa. They both like flowers, they both have an abusive and manipulative father named William A, and of course, there's the blonde hair and green eyes. However, we've never been able to actually figure out how these two characters are connected beyond them just being similar. Could it just be another instance of this franchise doing what I like to call pulling a Jeremy? That's using the same detail multiple times just to confuse us. But you see, there's a bit more that's suspicious about Vanessa. There's one thing that me and every other theorist out there has been scared to tackle in this game, and it's this: Security Breach's fire escape ending. In it, Glamrock Freddy yeets Vanny off the top of a burning pizzaplex, sending both of them to their death. Gregory pulls off the Vanny mask to reveal that it was Vanessa the whole time. A twist that surprised literally no one. Except after the credits, we pan up to the roof to see security guard Vanessa looking down as the building burns around her. Excuse me, what? Two Vanessas? Everyone just kind of collectively hand-waved this away. It must be a hallucination. Maybe it's her spirit still trapped in the pizzaplex. Or maybe, just maybe, Vanny and Vanessa have always been two separate individuals. Two twin sisters. Hold on.
And secure.
No way. No way, bruh. I was gonna say it, but I was like, if I say that they're twins, people gonna say I'm crazy. You know what I'm saying? With Matt Pack. Back me up. You know what I'm saying?
Breach Fury's Rage, we get VR sisters. That's one of the bosses in Fury's Rage. And I think it could be possible that one of the sisters, maybe Vanessa, went to go save her other sister after being taken over by Glitch Trap.
Recently, a new theorist has entered the ring with some pretty interesting things to say about Security Breach. John from the YouTube channel Fnaf. And while I was busy coining the catchphrase Music Man, he was busy in his corner preaching the gospel of the VR sisters. Remember them? Of course you don't. Why would you? So let me refresh your memory. In case you've forgotten, Security Breach got delayed a lot. I mean, a lot. And at one point, Scott Cawthon, worried that the fan base would be upset about the repeated delays, decided to release a short little meme game to tide us all over. A beat-em-up title called Fury's Rage.
The fan base, when they find out that I have to delay the game again, they're gonna kill me. What am I gonna do? I know. I'll make a game for them.
4 straightforward levels with a secret boss at the end, punching through waves of the franchise's most
it's like
enemies.
Streets
Freddy
of Rage,
Frostbear, Clown, Springtrap, Radioactive Foxy, L-Chip. And the rest of the enemies are just variations of Chica, the Puppet, Mangle, Baby. As for the bosses, most of them are jokes. Sure, you've got Vanny, but there's also Mega Brow, which is just Brow Boy from FNAF World. There's Soul Brawler, which is a reference to one of Scott's earlier game characters, Soul Dozer. And the secret final boss of the game, Dreamgeist, basically a giant troll about fan theories. And yet, in this game full of memes and tongue-in-cheek references, there's one set of characters that don't quite fits. The first level's boss, the VR sisters. They're the only truly original characters for this game. Literally everyone else
That's
you can point to and understand
crazy.
what the reference is. Now that is weird. Why would Scott put the time and effort into designing them, coming up with a name, and purposely putting them in there for us to look at if they weren't
Yours was
important
good.
in some way? With Vanessa being taken over by the glitch trap virus in FNAF VR, makes sense for this to be in relation to her in some way. She's a VR sister. And then her having a twin sister would explain why there could be a second Vanessa at the top of a burning building during the ending. What is it that John's been saying lately in his theory vids?
Need more proof?
Yeah, I do. You probably do too. Luckily, I have it for you. Once you get to level 4 of Furious Rage, you find yourself in some sort of factory surrounded by conveyor belts and magnets
This
holding
is
up
literally
humanoid
Streets of
robot
Rage,
torsos.
man.
In the end, you fight Vanny and the game ends. But wait, before you get to the boss battle, there's one very crucial detail in the level that everyone overlooks.
There's somebody in there.
An orange pod with a female figure sitting inside. I've seen enough sci-fi to know that right there is a birthing pod, and the figure inside looks an awful lot like Baby from the Fourth Closet graphic novel. That's right, friendos, it's time once again for everyone's favorite
the small
segment that
details
uses
people
the
be
lore of
missing.
multiple FNAF books to explain parts of the game that make no sense. In the Fourth Closet, Baby's origins take a weird turn.
Got
She's
school
actually
tomorrow.
a robot built by Henry to help
GG,
replace
my
his
boy.
daughter Charlie after her death. You see, Henry creates a robot for each stage of his daughter's life: toddler, child, teenager, and finally adult. In his mind, this would allow her to grow up with everyone else around her. And this gave us our first confirmed instance of robot kids being a thing inside of the series. Robots that are capable of bleeding, eating, feeling cold. And here's the weirdest twist of them all. Baby is the final adult form of Charlie, which, let's just say I have some strong feelings about.
People hate when I talk about the books. The books tell you the rough guidelines or rough rules of the universe. When you look at the books and there's this repeated thing of creators building robot kids, okay, well, apparently that's fair game. And then to take it one insane logical step further and say, not only are they building robotic versions of kids, but multiple versions of robotic kids at different ages, I would say you
That's
are insane. That's so stupid. It is a weird thing for them to do, and it challenges realism to such an absurd degree.
Yeah.
That you're like, yeah, and no one's noticing that this person that
Go,
they're
that went from 5 to 12. From 4. Hey, that be happening though. What if people are actually robots? Hold on, you know what I'm saying? We're getting a little deep. You ever see somebody, you like 2 years later, you're like, oh my God, you grew a foot. They're robots, all right? Confirmed. Matt Pat has confirmed.
interacting with and that bleeds. Again, because they bleed in the books, that bleeds, no one is noticing that this person doesn't age, but is still also eating in order to survive, but is also like perfectly passable as a human in every other way, shape, and form. That's crazy. And then the books layer on, and it's also Baby, who is a robot clown. And you're like, that's so stupid. I feel like no wonder people think that the theories that we produce are insane, because it is, but we're just telling you what the books say.
Welcome to the books, I guess.
That's
What's
crazy.
also interesting
Detroit
is that
Become
in the
Human
books,
FNAF
it's clear
edition?
that previous
Facts.
versions of the robot humans don't have to stop working or die in order for newer, more grown-up models to activate. Both teenage Charlie and adult Charlie, aka Baby, are walking around, totally sentient with their own goals and motivations. One wanting to live a normal life, completely unaware that she's a robot, and the other looking to kill children in service of William Afton, bitter because she's a robot. Sounds a lot like the relationship between a certain young security guard and her twin
True.
sister Murder Rabbit. Now, while we have no evidence to really support Charlie being rebuilt in the game lore like she was in the books, it does seem like Elizabeth may have multiple sisters of herself running around. In the words of John, who first proposed this one a year ago,
It could be very well possible that once Elizabeth died, William Afton not too soon after rebuilt her and built different ages of her throughout the years, just like we see in the books, in robot form. So that could be VR sisters, two different versions of the same
Yo, Brandon,
person.
can I
you know what? I
comprehend
think
what's
he's
going
right.
on?
At the time, we didn't have the evidence, but now I think he was ahead of his time. Move over, Gregory. There's a new robot human in town, and her name is Elizabeth Afton,
That's
and
4,
Vanessa,
6
and
a.m.
Vanny,
for me.
and probably the head of
Yogurt was
Fazbear
good.
Entertainment LLC too. All iterations of the same person from different life stages. All Elizabeth Afton. Some aware of who they really are, and some not. And one of those versions is Ruined DLC Girl. In some of Security Breach's cut dialogue, there are laugh lines that are definitely feminine, but also some that clearly mix in a young girlish tone. Hear that last one? Clearly, there's a childish girl laugh with a
All of them
British
low-key had
accent
like a
mixed in
young
there,
girl
exactly
type
like the
of
voice
accent.
of Elizabeth from Sister Location. Sites like the cutting room floor attribute these as cut Vanny lines, which makes sense considering that there aren't many human females in the game, but that laugh seems awfully young for Vanessa, or Vanny. And that's not all. Going back to Fury's Rage, notice the shoes on the VR sisters, specifically the cool purple sneakers.
Okay.
I could have sworn that they had matched the design of the blonde girl's light up sneakers in the Ruin DLC poster, but upon closer inspection, yeah, it was close, but not strong enough of a match for me to call it out in a theory.
Them joints look
Dead
like
end,
they light up
right?
low-key.
No. Notice the two colors on those shoes.
Purple,
red
red.
and purple. Very specific shades of red and purple. And what's the coloring of our two VR sisters? Red and purple. Seems that maybe, just maybe, this blonde girl is also part of the Elizabeth sisters. So that would actually give us our 4 closets. Baby, the original, young girl Elizabeth in the Ruin DLC, Vanessa, the 23-year-old security guard according to the Fnaf AR emails, and Vanny, who, you know, just might be slightly older. Her
Mermaid
being a
girls be
robot
like-
would also explain how she survived a massive fall from the top of a pizzaplex without being totally disfigured. Personally, I think this would actually be a pretty cool idea, having all the versions of Elizabeth come together. This child, Vanny, Vanessa, maybe even the original baby would show up to complete the tribe of robot Elizabeths. But
That's
doesn't all of this
crazy.
disprove my initial theory? If Vanny is the adult version of Elizabeth, then doesn't that mean we're out of Elizabeths to run Fazbear Entertainment LLC? We've filled all 4 of our closets. Well, not quite. Because when you get to the very end of that final book, Charlie's love interest John stands by Charlie's grave after all the other known versions of her have died. He looks up and sees none other than yet another, slightly older version of Charlie standing
That's
in front of him. I kind of just
crazy.
wrote this off initially as a cute ending, but in the wake of what we've been talking about this whole time, it reveals that there were never just 4 closets. There were never just 4 versions of Charlie. There were more. Potentially an infinite number of them, which honestly makes sense. Can't have a 20-something-year-old Charlie looking 20 forever. She too would need to
Exactly.
age up to look like a woman in her 30s, her 40s, her 50s. This idea is also shown in Fury's Rage. While the VR sisters are the first bosses, after you defeat them, they become regular enemies during the 3rd level. There are dozens of them that come out to attack you, one after the other after the other. New ones being built to achieve their purpose. Other bosses don't do that in the game. And in stage 4, those humanoid robot torsos hanging from the ceiling,
Who
they look a
thinks
little
of
bit more on the
this?
feminine side to me. Robot women being built by the boatload, ready to replace the ones that we destroy, be they VR sisters or security guards or murderous rabbits. And at the top of the food chain is an older, wiser, more vengeful version of Elizabeth pulling the strings, looking to bring her family of robots all back together to the same place. I suppose you could say that that makes the Pizzaplex the true sister location. But hey, say
Da-dum. That boy, that was a bar right there. Let me tell
all
you.
you want about Elizabeth's business practices, you gotta admit, she knows how to dress up a joint. I've always
True.
loved how the Pizzaplex looks. That 80s neon style just hits the nostalgia button hard for me. Fortunately, the metal posters from our sponsor Displate are here to scratch that very itch. Now I'm able to have all those
Link in the description. Hey, yo. This was crazy. I don't know how people put stuff like this together. Like, I be thinking in my head, like, I got some crazy stories. All right? That boy Scott said, hold my beer, big fella. Let me show you how to put together some lore. Okay? Now, I'm one of them people I used to look up, bro. While everybody was searching Bigfoot caught on camera, you know what I'm saying? When at the beginning of the internet, I was searching up, you know what I'm saying, Final Fantasy VII breakdowns, okay? Break the story down to me to the last molecule. That's what I was watching, all right? And I done seen some stories. But between, you know what I'm saying, FNAF, Disney, listen, I need some answers. The manga is hitting somewhere, and we gonna find it, all right? We gonna find that.